Hello and welcome to 3 Inning Fan, the podcast with me, Kelley Franco. We have an amazing show coming up for you today. I know you're going to love it. Our theme for the New York teams today, little names coming up big, and some big names coming up big too. Soto hit 2 home runs yesterday. Who paid a visit to him just before that game? We'll get into that. And then we'll get outside of the New York bubble and see what's going on around the league. Who's the hottest team outside of the New York teams? Who are some new names you need to know? What is the state of the Dodgers pitching? And what surprises have come our way since the last show? Let's get on it. Welcome to the Mets, first place in the NL East and owners of the second best record in baseball behind the Dodgers. They're firing on all cylinders, defense, offense, pitching, and chemistry. Let's talk pitching. For weeks on this show, as we followed the Mets through spring training and the early season, I said the Mets starting pitching would go as Senga went. Well, Senga has been phenomenal, and the rest of the staff has as well. Why was it important that Senga be good? Because I felt like the staff needed an ace. And you know what? I was wrong. The starting staff is so good, they don't need an ace. They're all good, and having Senga has only made them superlative. Note that Senga pitched great yesterday against the Diamondbacks with his ghost forking like nobody's business. But he took 87 pitches to get through 4 innings, and then he came out. Apparently, he had that stomach bug that has been plaguing the Mets clubhouse in recent weeks. But anyway, the Mets starting pitching is real, and it's spectacular. What did I say was our theme? Little names coming up big. Besides Senga, there are no big names on that starting staff. Their only other big name, Sean Manaea, has been injured, and when he returns, they'll only be stronger. Their rotation is Senga, Dave Peterson, Tylor Megill, Clay Holmes, and Griffin Canning. That's an ace, 2 homegrown guys, and 2 guys from the sales rack. Huge hat tip to David Stearns and his mythical pitching lab, which is achieving unicorn status. David Stearns finds bargains, then the pitching lab gives them a refurb, and boom, through 31 games, the Mets lead MLB with a 2.64 ERA. The next team isn't even close, the Padres with a 2.86 ERA. What we thought might be their Achilles heel is actually a pair of fabulous Manolo Blahnik heels that Neiman Marcus forgot to put the second 0 on when they printed the price tag. Larger question here. Stearns' strategy of signing bargain starters and giving them a refurb is improving the team, saving money, and possibly making him a cult hero. Will other GMs start copying him? Could Stearns' ball be the money ball of the next decade? What are his secret stats that tell him when a pitcher has a downside or an upside that can be exploited? Is it an eye test? Is it some stats? Other GMs are dying to find out. And the Mets bullpen. The Mets have had some bullpen setbacks in recent days, okay? The first was related to lefty reliever A.J. Minter, who has been solid for them this season, appearing in 13 games so far with a 1.64 ERA. But Carlos Mendoza said A.J. Minter had a significant issue with his left lat that may require season-ending surgery. There hasn't been a definitive report yet, but right now, Minter's on the 60-day IL. It doesn't sound good. The way these things sometimes go is that the next piece of news we're going to get is he had the surgery yesterday. So brace yourself for that. And then it was announced that Danny Young was on the 15-day IL with a left elbow sprain, and I'm hearing rumors that he might be headed for Tommy John surgery. Brooks Raley, who we thought would take A.J. Minter's place, was transferred to the 60-day IL, which seems to indicate that he won't be ready for, well, at least 60 days. So the Mets have no lefties in their bullpen unless they have promoted someone this morning. So righty Chris Davinsky was promoted from AAA Syracuse. He pitched one good inning and one kind of meh inning against the Diamondbacks on Wednesday. However, Davinsky and righty reliever Jose Butto have good numbers against lefties. Both are reverse split artists. So presumably they will patrol the lefty portion of opposing lineups. The critique of the Mets, there aren't many right now. But there's always room for improvement. Now, Soto is starting to wake up. He hit 2 home runs at Citi Field yesterday. He's probably about to explode. And you know who paid Soto a visit right before that game? None other than his infamous super agent, Scott Boras. Did he give Soto a pep talk? Maybe. To this point, the Mets are playing and pitching incredibly well. And that kind of covered up Soto's regular start. It wasn't a bad start, but it was kind of a regular start. The upside is when Soto starts to play like Soto, the Mets could be absolutely unbeatable. The second critique, if you wanted to find one, would be strength of schedule. And I kind of hate this term. It's a newish stat that they use to indicate how hard or easy a team's schedule has been so far. So why do I hate this stat? Because every win is a win and every loss is a loss. They all count the same, and it doesn't matter how good or bad the opponent was. The Mets have had an easier schedule, but they have beaten up on all those lesser teams, and so they've done everything right. Now, this week they did drop 2 of 3 to the Diamondbacks, who are a bit of a stronger team. But the Mets do have the Cardinals coming up this weekend, who they swept in a 4-game series last time they faced them. In May, the Mets will have a blend of stronger and weaker teams. They'll see the Diamondbacks again next week, and then the Dodgers, Red Sox, Yankees. But they also have series against the Cardinals, White Sox, Pirates, and Rockies. I am especially interested to see how that series against the Dodgers goes. It will be a fiery rematch of last year's NLCS. Let's hop to the Yankees. They are also in first place and also have little names coming up big. Worries about their Soto-less offense have given way as Ben Rice, Paul Goldschmidt, Trent Grisham, and of course Aaron Judge, not exactly a little name. They all have the Yankees leading the AL in runs scored and home runs. They're actually second in these categories across all of MLB, with the Cubs in first in both of them. More on the Cubs in a minute. And those little names coming up big, well, my listeners know that I have been loving Ben Rice this season. He's an absolute doll who put on 10 pounds of muscle on him before he got to spring training this year. He's absolutely killing the ball. And thanks to Giancarlo Stanton's not 1, but 2 tennis elbows, Rice has been DHing, although he is occasionally the backup first baseman. Well, you may not know, but Ben Rice can also do a little catching. And that may come in handy because someday Giancarlo Stanton will return, please God, and the Yankees can't wait to get his righty back in that lineup. But then we'll have the question of what to do with Rice. Could he possibly back up catch? Rice has been working out at that position every day, in fact. And last Sunday, he caught the 9th inning of Game 1 in that doubleheader against the Jays. It's just something to keep in mind. Paul Goldschmidt. Now, I don't want to call Paul Goldschmidt a little name because he was the NL 2022 MVP. But there were concerns the 37-year-old was washed up. Well, he's been dazzling so far this season. He's right behind Judge for the MLB leader in batting average, hitting .356. He's not a homers guy, but he's hit 2. But generally, he just gets a lot of hits. He's batting cleanup, 2 slots behind Judge, and he's getting the job done. And then there's Trent Grisham. He's been slotted into the leadoff spot quite often this year. Sometimes it's Ben Rice, but it's usually him lately. And he's hitting .292, 8 home runs, and an OPS of 1.009. He's also made some incredible defensive plays in center field. Now, you'll recall that the Yankees got Grisham in the Soto trade from the Padres. And at the time, it kind of felt like he was an add-on. He didn't really excel last year. But this year, he has been excelling on both sides of the ball. The most important thing about Grisham, he's setting the table for Aaron Judge. We talk so much about how to protect a hitter like Judge. If the batters after him aren't strong enough, opposing pitching will just walk him, put him on base, and face the next guy. But what Grisham is doing is protecting Judge from the front. So when Grisham bats leadoff and gets on base, it makes it harder to issue an intentional walk to Judge because there's already traffic on the bases, and you'll just be putting more traffic on the bases. In my mind, this protection in front of a big bat is almost more important than the protection after it. And Ben Rice, when he's been batting leadoff, has been doing the same thing. Aaron Judge, for all of his might, has only been intentionally walked 4 times this season so far. That's crazy, and I think it's a direct result of the table setting that's happening in front of him. It's beautiful lineup construction. And let me tell you, I think GM Brian Cashman is unfairly maligned by a lot of Yankee fans, at least on X. And he did a heck of a job creating a strong offensive lineup when Soto left for the Mets. And like I said, there are also some big names coming up big. Max Fried, for example, has turned into a lifesaver with Garrett Cole down for the season. Fried is 5-0 on the season with a 1.19 ERA so far. That's crazy. I shudder to think about where the Yankees would be without him. But Aaron Judge. Is Aaron Judge the best player in MLB right now? Yes. One thing I like to be aware of for myself is when I'm watching greatness, because sometimes we tend to idealize things in the past as great. And at least for myself, I don't realize when I'm seeing it right in front of me. And right now with Aaron Judge, we are watching greatness. The way we dream about what it might have been like to see DiMaggio swing a bat or see Willie Mays patrol center field. 50 years from now, kids will be asking us what it was like to watch Aaron Judge play. And I can hear the Ohtani peanut gallery saying, wait, isn't Ohtani the best player in baseball? And the answer is not right now. If he starts pitching again and he excels, we can revisit that question. I'll take it under consideration then. But right now, Ohtani hitting .287 is good, but he's just regular good. He's not crazy good. Aaron Judge is hitting .427, leading all of MLB. The next closest is Paul Goldschmidt, a full 71 points behind him. Judge's on-base percentage is .521. He gets on base more than 50% of the time, folks. That is not supposed to happen. Can he sustain it? It seems otherworldly that he'd be able to do so. So no, right? I would love to see it. Could he possibly become the first player since Ted Williams to hit over 400? I don't think so, because the sheer odds are simply against it. But wouldn't it be incredible for the sport to see him make a run at it? I remember when George Brett made a run at it in 1980. Boy, I was a young Yankee fan, and the Yankees-Royals rivalries were intense in those days, and I hated George Brett, and I didn't want him to get it, but it was exciting. Let's have a little Yankees chatter before we move around the league. Volpe is starting to hit again. He had 4 homers in the first 5 games of the season, and then he went totally dry, and the Yankee X community started to go mad, but now he's waking up. He's hitting .321 in his last 7 games. I have to come to the conclusion that Volpe is a roller coaster. He's either tearing it up or embarrassing himself at the plate. He's a totally streaky player. You just wish he could be more consistent. Luis Gil is throwing again. He's been on the IL with a lat strain. I was thinking the worst, that he wouldn't be back until after the All-Star break, but now I am encouraged to hear a late June target. Devin Williams. As you know, the Yankees' heralded off-season bullpen acquisition was temporarily removed from the closer role for stinking. Stinking is the word. And I have to admit, I wasn't initially very fond of the guy. I feel like we kind of got off on the wrong foot, and let me tell you why. It seemed like he never wanted to be a Yankee. Now, he was traded here from the Brewers, so he didn't choose it. But it seems like the first thing he did was complain about the Yankees' facial hair policy. Now, that may have been fine if he turned out to be a bullpen ace and the one that we wanted him to be, but he didn't. So I felt like we had a guy who was whining about his beard and couldn't close a game. But we all sometimes need a second chance. Yankee fans need to support Devin Williams and nurse him back to confidence. That means every time he gets out there, fans need to do a Trey Turner-like ovation and send the message out that he is being supported. Boos aren't going to work for him. We'll see if that works. A little bit about DJ LeMahieu. He could be back with the team soon. You will recall that he suffered a strained left calf in his first spring training game, and he's been on the fritz since then. He did a stint with AA Somerset, but then he needed an injection in his hip on Tuesday of this week because he felt something coming on. Yeah, that's right, in the hip when it was his calf that was hurting. But anyway, it seems like that was something new. He's supposed to return to action today, Friday, at Somerset. When he returns to the Yankees, which should be shortly, although for this injury-riddled veteran, nothing's for sure, he will slot back in at third base, where Oswaldo Cabrera has made an MLB-leading 5 errors so far this season. Of course, Cabrera is hitting .291, which is good, but he's weaker from the right side of the plate, and the Yankees need righty bats, especially with Stanton out of the lineup. DJ at least is a righty, and the Yankees owe him $15 million this year and $15 million next year, so you bet they're going to play him. DJ is one of those players that Yankee fans just can't get excited about, but it's all they got for third base. It's like in An Officer and a Gentleman, when Richard Gere is desperate and cries to Lou Gossett Jr., "I got nowhere else to go!" Yankee fans have nowhere else to go at third base. Will DJ be great? No, not swinging the bat, not unless a miracle occurs. But he can play third base. We know that much, and I have nothing else for you on this. I told you over the winter third base was going to be a problem, and it's still a problem. Let's get outside the New York bubble. The Cubbies. Remember when we watched the Cubs get swept by the Dodgers in that fake opening day in Tokyo in March? Well, they played the Dodgers another 5 times so far this season, and they're now done with them, and they have taken the season series 4-3. And then they polished off the Pirates and Paul Skeens yesterday. Well, they have recovered from losing that 2-game series to the Dodgers in March and then some. After the Mets, I think they may be playing the best baseball in the league. Remember I said they were done with the Dodgers? Well, they're not only done with the Dodgers, they're also done with the Padres and the Diamondbacks. They started with a tremendously hard schedule, and they've come out in first place in the NL Central. They're 2 games over the Brewers and the Reds. Why are they so good? Their offense is solid, pretty much top to bottom. They're leading MLB in runs scored, home runs, and stolen bases. They're consistent. Dansby Swanson has been having some issues this year, but otherwise, top to bottom, they're good. Kyle Tucker, their big offseason acquisition, has been playing like an absolute beast. He's even stealing some bases. He's got 8 stolen bases already on the season. You have Seiya Suzuki, Michael Busch, Nico Horner, and Ian Happ. They're all having good years. And here's one name you need to know if you don't know it already. Carson Kelley. Who is he? He's the part-time catcher with Miguel Amaya. Carson Kelley is hitting, hold on to your hat, .360 with a .507 OBP and a 1.347 OPS. Can you believe that? So why isn't he mentioned among the lead leaguers like Aaron Judge? With those kind of numbers, he should be right up there, but he doesn't have the requisite number of at-bats to qualify. He's being platooned with Miguel Amaya. Apparently, Carson Kelley is a righty, and he excels against lefty pitching. And so you have Miguel Amaya in there as a platoon partner, and also the Cubs want to develop Miguel Amaya, and they need to give him playing time. So you have platoon issues and developmental issues at play that are currently limiting Carson Kelley's at-bats. But he's a player you're going to want to keep an eye on. And then there's a sore spot for Mets fans, Pete Crow Armstrong. My longtime Mets fans know that he was a Mets minor leaguer. He was traded in 2021 by the Mets to the Cubs for Javi Baez and pitcher Trevor Williams. The Baez contract didn't work out well for the Mets. And this hurts. Because Pete Crow Armstrong, or PCA as he's known, is going to be a big star. He's a center fielder, and he's got power, base running, and sparkling defense. He's hitting .275 with 6 home runs and 12 stolen bases. He'll be an all-star this year, and every time Mets fans hear that, it will be a dagger in their hearts. It's noteworthy that Justin Steele, the Cubs ace, went down with an elbow injury, and he's out for the season. So right now for the Cubs, the offense is picking up the team. But they're going to need some pitching help when the trade deadline gets here. The NL Central is eminently winnable, and so far the Cubs look like they're up to the task. The Cubs will be playing the Mets at Wrigley Field the second weekend in May, and I am looking forward to seeing that series. In the category of, who was that team we left for dead 2 weeks ago? How about the Braves? They are perking up. We talked about them in the last show, and at that time they were playing .278 ball. Now they are 2 games shy of 500 in third place and 7-3 in their last 10. Here come the Braves. In the category of never believe anything that anyone says ever again. How about the Mariners? The conventional wisdom has been that they can pitch, but they can't score runs. Well, guess what? They're scoring runs. Seattle is third in the AL in runs scored behind the Yankees and the Red Sox. And the Mariners are in first place in the AL West playing .600 ball. Last team outside the bubble for today, the Dodgers. What is it with the Dodgers and their pitching? As usual, their pitchers are getting hurt. This time it's Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell, both on the 15-day injured list. Both have shoulder inflammation in their throwing arms, and there's no definitive timeline for their returns. What'll they do? Cobble it together, and no one is better than Dave Roberts at structuring bullpen games when he needs to. It helps that he has an arsenal of pitchers to choose from. Tony Gonsolin came off the IL this week to start against the Marlins on Wednesday, and he took home the dub, going 6 innings and giving up 3 earned runs. They can also stretch out Ben Kasparius, and they have guys like Landon Knack and Bobby Miller in AAA. One thing they will not do is rush Shohei Ohtani back to pitching. He's throwing off a mound, but they won't rush his return. They want him available down the stretch and in the postseason. In fact, the Dodgers are being very conservative in returning all of their starters after injury. We've seen it with Ohtani, Michael Kopech, Tony Gonsolin, and Clayton Kershaw. He could be back mid-May. But it's almost as if they have figured out that they are making the postseason no matter what. And they're already planning on how they can advance once they get there. In other words, they're slow walking it because they can. Their focus is the postseason. Let's close it up with what's good to eat while watching the ball game. Last weekend, I was in Washington, D.C., and by a great stroke of luck, the Mets were playing the Nationals while I was down there. We caught Friday night's game at Nationals Park, and it's a lovely ballpark to go to. Unfortunately, it was one of the games that the Mets lost in the bottom of the ninth, but at least we saw a fantastic game. On a recommendation from a stranger sitting next to me, and there was no stranger danger because it turned out great. We got sandwiches from Roaming Rooster. We got them to eat while we were watching the ball game, even though it meant we had to trek to the other side of the stadium because that's what I do for food. The sandwiches from Roaming Rooster did not disappoint. Roaming Rooster offers fried chicken sandwiches, only a few varieties, but greatness doesn't need a lot of choices. I got the Nashville hot chicken sandwich. It was packed with boneless fried chicken thighs, bathed in hot sauce, and topped with hot peppers and pickles. I like spicy food, and the Rooster did not fool around with the heat. I had no choice but to consume tequila and wipe my forehead. The bun was the perfect size, not overwhelming, a frequent downfall for burgers and chicken sandwiches. Roaming Rooster, we shall meet again. And you and I will meet again soon, too. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.